Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for the Payday 3 news update. Sorry I'm a tiny bit later in the day to this one than normal. I was at a funeral, so I'm sure you can understand that had to take priority. However, we have got this roadmap, in inverted commas, we'll get to that in a second, from Starbreeze with regards to the next update for Payday 3. And we've also got the Starbreeze Q1 financial report, which I actually think is worthwhile going over a little bit because there were some points made in a Q&A by the Interim CEO and CFO that I just thought were worth going over. So a bit of an overall news video for today. And after that on Friday, we'll look at the next dev blog, which as it's confirmed in this post, will explore the progression system overhaul that is coming in the next update for Payday 3. But let's get started with this roadmap to begin with. So I ask you a question to start with. When is a roadmap not a roadmap? Well, when it looks like this. I'm being facetious, I know that, I'm saying it more for comedy than anything else, but I still don't really get why they called this a roadmap, because it isn't one, it's just telling you what's in the next update. It's nothing more than that. They do say this is phase 1 of the show-all plan they have going forward, but didn't want to delay this part any longer. I'm not even sure they need to say that, they could have just said, here's a big list of what's coming in the next update and left it there. But I am just picking at semantics here, so realistically, let's get into the actual content, which I do think for this post is pretty good. So they're going to give us an interactive website very soon that will give their grander plans for the summer, so I don't know when that will be, but hopefully it'll come in the next couple of weeks. And then they give us this list here, feature list in the next patch. We'll break down this in a second, but they do just clarify above it, they've had to delay the daily activities feature to July at the earliest due to finding a fairly significant problem last minute. Now that means it's possibly going to be 3 updates away, because later in this video, we'll discuss why I think Boys in Blue, the next DLC heist, is coming in June. We know that's not the next update because this update's listing a bunch of stuff that isn't that heist, and so I think July, 3 updates away, is when this feature will get added. So it's been pushed back a little bit. However, Mask of the Week is still coming. That was the other thing from last week's blog post, so we're getting that in the feature list. So in the next Payday 3 update, which based on predictions here, I'm expecting late May, early June, will contain the new progression system, Mask of the Week, the 6 loud modifiers, new Heister VO, 2 stealth modifiers, the assassin skill line, and the techie rollout. There's some good, there's some bad, and some in between there, but all we get beyond that is some other things we can expect. So this Friday's dev blog will explore the new progression system, next Friday's dev blog will explore the assassin skill line, and then a new dev update will come out after that will cover the above list with no date set yet. And as I said earlier in the post, there will be more updates to this roadmap. Because they've called it a roadmap, I'm just really confused. So is this going to be updated with more things for the next patch, or is it going to be in the next patch and then they add a new thing in for in the patch after? This is not a roadmap. That's why I'm being picky. I'm not being an arse for the sake of it. I genuinely don't understand what they're trying to say because they've called this a roadmap and it isn't one. So I don't know what that bit means. We will see in a couple of weeks. But I am personally very interested about the fact that we've only got confirmation what the next 2 blog posts will contain. Either they've not fully decided what to focus on in the blog posts after that, or we can expect the new dev update to come the week after Friday the 24th of May. They do say no date is set yet though, so do with that what you will. But I do think based on the fact that this is coming before the Boys in Blue update, which again I'm earmarking for June, I will get there in a minute, I know I'm teasing you. I actually do think the week of Monday the 27th of May, that week commencing, is probably a good estimate for when the dev update would come out and then the update the week after. I could see that happening, so this timeline does make a good bit of sense to me. And before anyone asks any questions, let's cover a couple of things here. First off, the 6 rotating loud modifiers, there's been no clarification as to anything changing from that blog post. I know I was one of many people who criticised a lot of those modifiers. There's been no word as to if any of those are changing. Hopefully they will, but we'll see. The new Heister VO, before anyone panics, is not a new character. It basically means they're adding new lines into the game. Now, I don't know quite how extensive it goes, but I have heard a lot of people talking over the last 8 or 9 months about a whole heap of voice lines that characters should have that are in the game files that just aren't in the live game. So hopefully this is a work towards adding those back in, which the game needs. The game needs more voice lines from Shade, from the Heisters, from everyone in general. The only other thing is the techie rollout, and I dared to say on Twitter that I didn't like this idea, and I got flamed for it, but I just personally don't like the techie as an enemy that much. I know that she's a lot easier to deal with, especially since the meta changes, but I'm not the biggest fan of hers, so you won't hear me celebrating her being rolled out to other heists, but, you know, if you like her, or you don't mind her, you got her to look forward to in 10 other heists beyond Syntax Error when this update drops, so do that as you will. Some cool stuff here though. I'm intrigued to see what the assassin skill line's going to be. We'll find out more about that soon, and then this Friday, the new progression system. So there you have it. Next up, let's look at the Q1 financial report, because this actually gives us some intriguing information. First off, it gives you some financial bits, and I have got this version from their presentation that they gave, which was delivered by Jürgen, the interim CEO, and Mats, who is the CFO, but they shared this information here. So in Q1 2024, Starbreeze operated at a loss of 21 million. Now, Starbreeze did say this was down to them making investments, and they do say at several points they are financially secure. I don't immediately want to disprove that. I don't think there's much reason to. I don't even know if there's much validity in doing so. I just think that it's interesting that they are a loss after making these investments, because I do think had Payday 3 done better, they probably wouldn't have ended up in that position. But I do think from everything I can see and ascertain from the reports that Starbreeze is not, about to go under or something. I think everything looks fairly decent for them operations-wise. So as a company, it's nice to see. Just because Payday 3 has not done well, it doesn't mean I want to see people out of a job. So it seems like there's some security, fingers crossed, and you can't say fairer than that. However, they do give us some more details, financials and things like that you can look over yourself. I will link this in the description, please do not worry. But I do want to focus on Operation Medic Bag. So this is the overall message from the interim CEO Jurgen that I mentioned a moment ago, and it talks about a few interesting things. For one thing, they showed a playable tech demo of Project Baxter, their next game that comes out in 2026 under the Dungeons & Dragons IP, at the Game Developers Conference in March, and apparently received some very high interest. We'll see what happens there. However, in terms of Payday 3 specifically, they talk a bit about the Operation Medic Bag scheme and how it's, obviously trying to make Payday 3 better. There's a couple of interesting things to pick out. We are going to increase both the cadence, so frequency of updates, good, and the scope of the patches, with several larger milestone releases planned, the first of which will launch in June. So this to me suggests that we're going to get a DLC drop in June. Now this is down to interpretation, because you may be sat there right now and saying, well, Troy, the thing they just put up on the blog post is big enough to call a big update and there's no DLC in there. And you would be right to assume that. As I've just predicted, this update could see itself to be early June. It doesn't necessarily mean the Boys in Blue will also come out in that update. It could come out in late June or it could come out after that. So I understand there's a bit of an interpretation thing there, but I just think it's interesting to note the CEO has said there's going to be one of the bigger updates in June, so we will see. I think it really depends on when this next update comes out and we can judge it from there. But either way, the thing that still leans into this is that they've said that Operation Medic Bag meant they had to push some DLCs back in favour of adding new features, so the pipeline for the summer months is very strong, and they expect to see an impact on sales from the third quarter onwards. So this, as I said, very, very, very fascinating, because it basically means that by the end of summer, there should be enough DLCs in the game that is going to boom sales for Payday 3 and Payday 3's DLCs, at least according to their interim CEO, which suggests to me that they're trying to release several DLC packs across the summer months. This plays back to a point I made a couple of videos ago that a few of the people have been arguing, which is, do Starbreeze legally have to release all 4 DLC packs before the year 1 anniversary is out? Some people have said they do, some people have said they don't. I don't think we've had any official confirmation from Starbreeze, and in fairness on this, I can't really see them wanting to comment on that because it is a legal thing, but because they didn't meet the 6-month requirements for the Silver Pass, you wonder if that same thing applies for the Gold. If it does, then we're going to get 3 DLC packs before September, and that would play into what the CEO is saying here about a big summer month drop for Payday 3 that will boost those sales. It would make a lot of logical sense. Whatever happens, it sounds as though we may be waiting a while for proper content at the minute, but once it starts coming, it won't stop, like the Smash Mouth song. That's something to get excited over, but it is in the future. It's not properly explained, it's just given a bit of a hint, so it could be something good, but I'm not going to leap on it too much here. The only other thing I want to note is that you can view the presentation from the company, from Jurgen and Mats, on their Starbreeze website. Again, I will link it in the description. There was a Q&A at the end of the presentation. You can actually just see it if you skip along here. They are talking through and answering questions. If I can jump ahead, if it will let me do it. There we go. You can see them talking there. Someone called Mage uploaded it to YouTube. You can always go and search that up if you want to. However, they did answer some questions that I feel are quite interesting, which means, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a fan of my video since Payday 3 launched, we're going back to my favourite part of my videos. Get ready for the flashbang. 3, 2, 1, bang. It's the PDF notes. I know, you all missed it. You probably didn't, did you? Anyway, there was just a couple of things I wanted to run through, so I've written them down as bullet points because I think it's important to note for everyone watching. So first off, Boys in Blue coming in summer 2024 alongside more big updates. We talked about that, but he does reiterate that it's coming in summer. Makes sense based on everything I've already read. Offline mode for Payday 3 is apparently only going to come after the year 1 end of Payday 3, so after September. I'm guessing that means the first version of it, because they're still planning this V1, V2 thing for offline mode. So we're going to have to wait an entire year to get a mode in Payday 3 people asked for before the game even came out. I don't like being cynical, but you can't really be positive about that. Either way, Mats, the CFO, claims that they will continue to make sure Payday 2 works, and I just wanted to pick this apart, as well as the statement afterwards that there'll be no new content for Payday 2, but he then said, quote, "At least that's the plan right now," unquote. So, just want to pick these two apart just for a second. First off, Payday 2, there are some problems with it, and as I've said already, if you watch Vize's Safe House podcast, I featured on it a couple of weeks ago. Sea-Dog, in particular, one of the Starbreeze partners, noted a big, long description of things that Payday 2 had changed in its last update that weren't documented in patch notes, and there are some bugs and things that just not have been addressed by Starbreeze. They've not talked about them, they've not done anything about them, which leads to the assumption that absolutely nobody is working on Payday 2. This is then also reinforced by a statement statement at the end of the presentation that there is a roughly 50-50 split of their 150 large dev team between Project Baxter and Payday 3. No mention of Payday 2. So I find it very interesting that they quote that they will continue to make sure Payday 2 works when no one's really working on it. It's not really a call to action or a complaint to the company. I just think that's very strange wording based on what they've said, and also based on the fact that if you look at their financial reports, nearly a third of the money they generated this quarter came from Payday 2. So if it were me, I'd just suggest maybe having 2 or 3 people on the dev team of Payday 2, just fixing a couple of problems, looking into things and making sure the game runs as well as it can, because it is the game that's getting the most players right now, even if it's not generating as much money. Still worth, I think, some attention personally. But it's this sentence here. I could be reading too much into this, and I want to stress that, but it would be very foolish to assume that there hasn't at some point been an idea floated around in Starbreeze that they would go back to Payday 2 DLC if they need to. I don't personally think that's ever going to happen. I think the day that does happen is the day that everyone loses faith in Starbreeze as a company, if of course you haven't already. That's your personal opinion. I'm not going to delve too far into that. I just think it's interesting that the CFO said that. Now again, this is just an answer to a Q&A in the presentation, so don't overanalyze it, but I noted it, thought it was interesting, and I put it down for you. The last thing I just wanted to share that I thought was quite interesting was that Matt said the Game Pass is doing well for Payday 3. PlayStation did better than expected, but overall console is just doing well for Payday 3. Does that mean that console player figures are better than PC? It's not impossible. That information is not publicly accessible like Steam charts are, but it's not exactly impossible to assume that the better performance right now for Payday 3 is on consoles, especially when one of them allows you to play the game for free if you own a subscription on Xbox's Game Pass service. All you need is a Nebula account and you're good to go. So just thought it was interesting to get some confirmation there that they do think console was worth the time because it's doing better than they'd even expected. But ladies and gentlemen, that is my overall round summation of the blog post and Q1 financial report from Starbreeze. Some really interesting stuff here, and I'm really intrigued to see what this next update looks like, whether it will contain Boys in Blue and Boys in Blue will come out, who knows, but I do think that this summer we may finally get the fruits of our labours, the labours being waiting for months and months with nothing to show for it, so we shall see. But thank you all very much for watching. As per usual, if you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you are new to get all up-to-date information for Payday 3 as it happens. I'll be back this Friday with the challenge-based progression system blog post. What will it contain? We'll find out soon, but thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all very soon with that new video. Look after yourselves, stay safe, take care.